Welcome back. You're watching Newslink. The DA has failed in its bid to have Monday's national shutdown declared illegal. However, the High Court has ruled that the EFF may not conduct any illegal activity like shut businesses or schools or block roads and railway lines. It's also given the EFF until 5 p.m. today to inform its members of the court order via social media, email or any other means. I'm joined now by DA leader John Steenhuisen for the very latest here. Very good morning to you, Mr. John Steenhuisen. Let's start with the very reason that you wanted the shutdown to be declared illegal, given the fact that protesting and marching in the country is a normal legal process that can be taken by anyone in the country. What about this shutdown was the DA most concerned about?
Well, I think what we were most concerned around was the threats of violence and intimidation and the coercion and compelling by the EFF of businesses, airports, private operations to shut their businesses down and to join in on that particular shutdown, whether they supported the EFF's reasons for doing so or not. Also the threat of potential looting and violence that would follow from such particular action, particularly given the social media posturing, the threats that have been made by various EFF leaders on public platforms about what was going to happen on the day. So we're very pleased with the result. We obviously would have liked the whole prayer to be answered, but certainly we are covered by the judgment in terms of what we were trying to achieve from the beginning, which was to prevent violence and looting and to keep law-abiding South African citizens safe from the behavior of the EFF on the day.
Is it safe to assume that as the DA you didn't then have confidence in the pronouncements that have been made by Police Minister Bheki Cele, the President, and other related stakeholders that the country would be safe when the shutdown happens and such violence would be prevented by various law enforcement authorities?
Well, having been on the ground in KwaZulu-Natal during the July riots in the past, I'm afraid that there's very little confidence in them upholding law and order. However, this court order now does strengthen the arm of those law enforcement agencies and security services quite significantly, because now, should the EFF begin to protest in a way that is in contravention of that court order, there is no excuse whatsoever for the security services to intervene immediately and prevent the situation from escalating. So I think it's a massive victory for the rule of law and for law and order in South Africa. And I think that it's a victory for law-abiding citizens who want to go about their daily life, running their business, getting their children to school and providing for their families.
I must ask you, Mr. John Steenhuisen, whether in general, as a citizen of the state, you do concur with the concerns that are being raised by the EFF and the reasons that they'll be taking to the streets tomorrow, and whether you think actions of this nature actually yield any kind of solid results.
Well, I don't think shutting down an entire economy on a day is going to help South Africa. Given our terrible economic situation, we've already seen a major contraction in economic growth in the country and rising unemployment. So shutting down the country and losing out on revenue for a full day and putting businesses who have already been battered by the faulty economy, I don't think helps. But we are completely sympathetic with the reasons why the EFF want to march. And as you know, we conducted our own march to the Thuli House earlier this year. But that was done peacefully and well controlled and very disciplined. No businesses closed along the route. In fact, all the businesses were open. There was no violence and looting. Nobody's shops or infrastructure was damaged. And that is why the constitutional right to protest has the caveat that it must be done peacefully. Going onto social media, displaying semi-automatic weapons, targeting certain communities, issuing letters to businesses that they don't shut, there will be consequences, is not peaceful. And that was what we took umbrage with and why we felt it important to approach the courts to get an interdict to prevent that type of behavior from taking place. And we've secured them in both the Western Cape and now the Gauteng High Court for the rest of the country. So all the bases are now covered and the security services must now do their job armed with these orders of court.
Now that you do, as you say, have those orders behind you, Mr. John Steenhuisen, as a final thought, what would the call to your members be ahead of that shutdown tomorrow?
Well, I've just had a meeting with my public representatives here in KwaZulu-Natal, given that was the epicenter of the last outbreak of unrest, violence and looting. And we're going to be providing a solid, calm, cool-headed response on the day, and we'll be ensuring that citizens in our wards and in our constituencies have a free flow of information and that they're able to report any outbreaks of violence or where the court order is being disobeyed, so that we can relay this to the security services to ensure that that can be contained as quickly as possible rather than spiraling out of control. But I'm saying to South Africa that the best way to show the EFF that this doesn't work and it's not wanted is to go about their ordinary businesses, open their businesses, conduct their day as normal, and allow the law to take its course, not to take the law into their own hands, but to allow the security services of the country to enforce this order of the court and to uphold law and order in South Africa.
Thank you very much, John Steenhuisen, leader of the DA, giving us an update on the breaking news on your screen at the moment around the shutdown, what the DA wanted an interdict on and what the court has since granted.